Hi, I'm Libby Gibson, Town Manager. Welcome to What's Going On in Town Government. We had a medium-sized selectmen's meeting this week. It was Real Estate Wednesday, so we had a lot of real estate items. We also had some announcements that people should be aware of, and we're going to be announcing these for the next few weeks probably, or months. We have a sewer project going on. It's called the Nantucket Harbor Shimo Plus Parcels Sewer Extension Project. It's on Vesper Lane right now, I think, and in the McLean-Tashima area. And they just, I think, finished some night work on Vesper Lane. So that work, I think, is over. They were delayed a bit because of the weather last week. But that work should be over, and they are going to be moving along Vesper out towards Hummock Pond and Meadowview. They're going to be moving towards Bayberry Lane off Tacoma in that area, and Green Meadows Drive in that area. I'm not saying it in the correct order, but when they're done with this sort of mid-island-ish area, they're going to move out to Shimo. So we have a schedule online on the town website, and we're going to be making this announcement weekly for the duration of the project. The other announcement we're going to be making for a few more weeks is the closure of Children's Beach boat ramp for repairs. This boat ramp at Children's Beach will be closed from October 31st through January 15th for repairs, okay? So if you're a commercial scalloper, you need to be aware of this. You will not be able to use that boat ramp from October 31st through January 15th. You are going to have to make alternative arrangements. The reason for this is because the work required can only take place within an environmental window of these dates and a little later. So we had to pick the least worst time, and it's probably least worst to get the work done now than to get it done in May. Okay, this is not convenient for anybody. We fully understand that. No, they're not going to be happy. We completely get it. At least you have an option.
You have been warned.
You've been warned. You have time to make preparations.
But what would they do? Where can you put in?
Matticat.
Wow.
Yeah.
Or you leave your boat in.
Or you leave your boat in.
You figure out a way now to leave it in.
Yeah, and you bring your catch in a different place. So it's a temporary PITA, shall we say, but the work is necessary to be done. So this is, when are we going to do it if we don't do it now? It can't be done then.
Got it.
Okay, we had a public hearing to consider expanding senior citizen taxi rates.
You seem to enjoy that one.
Did I?
Yeah, I was watching. You were getting a little frustrated, I thought.
Well, Gino.
Yeah.
I don't want to say too much about this, but this is not the first time we've had this discussion. We had this discussion back in June. I think there was a hope that the taxi group would come in with some recommendations on this, and we did not get anything. Now, granted, at the time we last discussed this, they were going into their busy summer season, so that probably explains why they didn't get at it. So hopefully they're going to get at it now. And I guess the frustration for me was when they started talking about Uber, because every single taxi discussion almost immediately derails into Uber. And right now, I know that in places outside of Massachusetts, they are regulating Uber in certain ways.
Yeah.
But in Massachusetts, the state where we are, you can't do that as a municipality. There are no state regulations or laws that allow Massachusetts municipalities to regulate Uber in their towns. Yeah. So they come in every time and say, we hate Uber so much, and they're cutting into our business and all like that. And I think there's some sympathy for that, but there's nothing that the town can do about that. But there is some stuff the taxis might be able to do. Band together, get an app, and take credit cards. And I think there might be some movement towards that.
Or get out of paying the town the taxi fee and become an Uber driver. I mean, you always have that option too.
There's that option too. I know where you're coming from. There are some things that could be done. That's all.
But as far as the price goes, the issue was you had a taxi person who uses the taxis, and senior citizen, he wanted a break,
Yep.
a zone break.
Well, there's
He's
a break now within this zone, right? He lives a bit outside the zone. So he wanted
But that zone
the
wasn't
break
covered.
extended to
Yeah.
his zone.
He wanted the zone change, not just the.
Yeah, so it got a little confusing because the zone maps can be a bit confusing. And so it was hard we had to try to figure out what exactly he was asking for. That took a little bit of time. And anyway.
Well, Matt kind of said it straight. He's like, this is Nantucket, and, people help each other out here too.
Well, and the taxis.
We don't have to enforce everything.
The owners who were there, most of them did get up and say,
Yeah.
we just do this. And
Exactly.
they do.
And they
they're some of them, not all, I'm going to say, are very good at that, and they're very local oriented. But not everybody is. And they're not always available when somebody calls. They have to take somebody else, and
That's
they're not
right.
as
They have
like that.
different drivers, and these drivers
Especially
are,
in the summer.
Yeah.
In the winter, it's probably a lot
especially in the
easier.
summer. Right.
So the end result of that was we're going to have another public hearing at the end of October to take this up again, and we hopefully will have some kind of a taxi group recommendation for that meeting. We also had some talk about parking. To make a long story short, we had a couple of traffic safety recommendations to eliminate on-street parking. One was to eliminate on-street parking on Fayette Street. There's some space in front of 11 or across
Where's
from
that?
11 Fayette. Fayette runs between Union and Washington. It's right near the town parking lot.
Okay.
Now, this is a spot, I think most people, if they saw, when you see a car parked there, you think, oh, that shouldn't be parking there, because it really takes up a lot of space. So this was initiated because there is a new house there, or a renovated house, and they now have a driveway that they have difficulty getting out of because there's a parking spot there and there's often a car in it. So I don't know that people have too much sympathy for that situation, but
Was there a
regardless,
driveway prior to that?
there may have been, but it's differently configured now, and it's not quite the same. So previously, I think if you were actually driving on Fayette, you could kind of pull over to the side a little bit, probably on the people's property, to get by the parking. You see what I mean? In any event, make a long story short, the board voted to eliminate that parking spot. There was also a request to eliminate on-street parking, some parking spots at 13 and 15 Cliff Road. I have something in my eye. I feel like Nat Lowell. He's been walking around with something in his eye.
Oh.
And I hope I didn't get into my eye.
No.
Anyway, 13 to 15 Cliff Road. So they came in and they had some sort of engineering support for the removal of these spots. Town admin had recommended not to remove the spots, really basically because this parking spot situation exists in so many places around the island. People can't get out of their driveways because there's a parking spot right next to the driveway. The roads are narrow. The sight lines are difficult when there's cars in the parking spot. That situation exists everywhere.
Everywhere.
So town admin's thinking was, it exists everywhere. We got to live with it, and we can't keep removing parking spots because people say they can't get out of their driveways. And it's something you live with if you live in a situation like that. So there was a lot of discussion about that, though. It's specifically about maybe we ought to make Cliff Road a kind of a pilot program to make some physical improvements to the sidewalk on one side of the street so the cars can park on one side, but the sidewalk is more amenable to pedestrians on the other side of the street. So we don't have the car parking on the sidewalk problem, which is also in many streets around here. So we didn't really get to a decision on that, but I imagine we're going to be talking about it again. What else do we have? Oh, the finance director was in. He gave an overview of a new sort of application on the town website called OpenGov. It's a financial transparency application. So if you want to know what new growth was or what revenue the town collected over the last 5 years, you can go and look at it. There's graphs and charts, and it's really a good thing. A lot of Cape Towns are doing it as well.
A lot of graphs.
A lot of graphs,
Yeah.
if you like graphs, but there's a lot of numbers too, so check it out. And if you have some suggestions or comments on it, you can email opengov@nantucket-ma.gov. The police chief was in giving an update on storm and weather emergency preparedness plans. We talked a bit about the tropical storm Jose impact on Nantucket. We scheduled a date for a special election. Okay, so remember, we have a special town meeting scheduled for November 6th. And one of the articles on the warrant has to do with a supplemental appropriation for the fire station. We already have an appropriated funds for the fire station, but they haven't been enough every time we go out to bid. So the idea here is that we appropriate additional funds, but we are going to have to borrow the funds and incur a debt exclusion. We're going to fund it through a debt exclusion. So we're going to have that one question on a special election ballot following the special town meeting, and it's going to be November 28th. Special town meeting November 6th, special election for the fire station November 28th.
Ah, and what does that mean, debt exclusion? What is that
debt
in layman terms?
We are exempting our debt from the restrictions of Prop 2.5. So Prop 2.5 is a restriction on municipalities where you can't increase your taxes by 2.5% per year. So if we were to borrow the funds needed for this additional appropriation, we would be cutting into the operating budget, and we'd have to cut some other things in order to stay within the 2.5 cap. Or we can say, for this project only, we're going to allow ourselves to go up above 2.5%. We've done it many times for big capital projects.
How long would it
this
take, in this case, to pay that off?
I think it would be a 20-year bond.
It would be that much, though? We would pay it off that slowly because of the interest rate is so low?
Most large capital projects like that are 20 to 30 years.
How much more money do we need, Libby?
We probably need around $4 million. The timing is an issue here because we've gone out to bid again, but the bids aren't due till October 25th, which is after the Selectmen and the Finance Committee have made motions and comments to the warrant articles. So for this one warrant article, there won't be a printed motion because we won't have the bid results in before we go to print. So it'll have to be a motion that's basically given to the voters at town meeting.
I see.
We'll talk about it before that and we'll try to get the word out, but it'll be really mostly done at town meeting. The board also discussed the acquisition of a parcel of property on the corner of Washington Street and Francis Street. So when you're coming around that corner heading to Union.
Right. Yep.
So what's going to happen here is this is a kind of a joint transaction between NISDA, the land bank, and the town. And to make a long story short, the town would end up with the parcel of land that will enable the intersection to be widened, and then the land bank will have property that it will make a park into a park.
You mean, yeah.
Back from that.
Where
on the
NISDA is, those
where
cottages.
NISDA, yep. So the
those
cottages are going to move.
Okay.
And they would move to more to the back of the property, and NISDA would retain a piece of property, and then Land Bank Park, and then the widening of the intersection. So we talked about how we're going to fund that, and the board ended up agreeing that we're going to use a prior year article that hasn't had much spent out of it yet, that we're going to need more money for anyway. So that's how we're going to do that.
Just curious, if you want to continue to go down Washington Street, will there be a lane for that and you can still get around?
Yeah, it'll be.
The new one?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it'll be marked somewhere.
Got it.
Okay, so then the board, they all usually give some committee reports, so we went through those things. Next week at the board meeting, we have a medical marijuana dispensary coming in to seek what is called a letter of, there's one or two things that this application like this can get. A letter of support for the establishment, or what's called a letter of non-opposition, which basically says, we don't oppose this. And you kind of can't necessarily, it's very strict how you would oppose it to begin with. So a medical marijuana dispensary has to go through a very specific state regulatory process. This is one of the steps in that process. Every county in Massachusetts must have at least one medical marijuana dispensary. We have issued a letter of non-opposition already to a different group, and that different group is apparently still going through the state regulatory process, and our understanding is that they do not currently have, at least most recently to my knowledge, a location. So they're sort of pending out there. Meanwhile, a different group has come in. They have an established location. We've met with them a couple of times, and they have a pretty well laid out business plan. And they seem to be a little more ready to go than the other group, but which isn't to say that the other group wouldn't continue also.
Both can be
There could
in
be
existence.
two. There could
Oh,
be
okay.
two. Anyway, we're going to be
Can
having
there be more than two?
potentially,
Who
but
makes that decision?
well, the state would probably ultimately
I
make
see.
that decision, but they do require something from the town. So either
The
a letter.
town doesn't make the decision. We don't say how many dispensaries there can be.
Not necessarily, no. But the state regulations are all in very much of a changing, dynamic state right now, and they're not complete. So we may find out that we don't need local approval going in the future for a medical marijuana dispensary. But I think it comes down to how many can you really have in
Are these
small
folks
place
coming
like
in?
this.
Are they going to be coming
They're going to
in?
be at the meeting,
Oh,
yes.
that'll be interesting.
Yeah, they're really, they're interesting, and they have other businesses elsewhere, so they're
But
not new to the
local
business.
Nantucket business. Are they
Not to my
local?
knowledge, but
No.
they have a history on Nantucket.
Oh,
They're
okay.
very familiar with the island, and so we'll meet them. You will meet them on Wednesday. Okay, the selectmen are also going to be making any comments that they might want to make on the special town meeting warrant articles. We'll go through the warrant and they'll decide if they want to comment on anything. And I mentioned before we have those announcements about the sewer and the Children's Beach boat ramp. We're going to start announcing the special town meeting. We're going to start announcing when the annual town meeting warrant is open for citizen article submissions. I believe we're going to have an ad in the paper next week about this. And we have some information on the town website. So Gino, those are the things that are going on. We also had a joint meeting yesterday afternoon, Finance Committee, Capital Program Committee, and Board of Selectmen about capital projects for the next fiscal year. And that was a very good discussion about the process. Capcom and Town Admin have been working on improving the project review process, and we have a new form and we have a new ranking system.
Do we have any big capital projects coming up that you want?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
We are likely to have, well, we're at the beginning of the project review process right now, so things fall out and things maybe get added. But some of the big things that we're looking at right now include a new garage for DPW. They are in desperate need of a new garage. I encourage people to maybe go out there and take a look at what they have out there. It's substandard at best. So we need to get equipment under cover. We need proper quarters for people to do work on the equipment in. And, you know, in snowstorms and things, they need a better place than, you would be, I think, appalled to see what
I've seen it.
Okay, so there's that. There is potentially a possible request, well, there's likely to be a request for a renovated or new building at the Marine Department. We've been talking about this for quite a while. The bathrooms there are in something of a shambles. That might be a little bit too strong. They're not in good condition.
Is that Brant Point?
No,
Where's
Marine Department on Washington Street
Oh, okay.
at the town pier.
Okay.
And we have actually been authorized for a state grant of, I think, approximately $1 million to go towards that. This is probably a $3.5-ish million project to be offset by this grant, so that makes it a little bit better. And we're going to be probably putting in a number of Old South Road corridor improvements, potentially funds to improve the Milestone Rotary, funds for a roundabout at Old South and Fairgrounds, maybe funds for a roundabout at Airport Road in Old South. This would all likely be phased, so we might not ask for the whole shebang in one town meeting, but a good chunk to get things going. And there's going to be a lot more discussion about that at Capcom, FinCom, and
All of
BOS.
this is town meeting.
All of this is going to be probably culminating in the 2018 annual town meeting. So those are some of the big things coming up.
I see.
So we didn't really get into that level of detail at this meeting yesterday. This was more about the process, and it was a kind of a get on the same page meeting about that. And what else have we been up to? I'm glancing through my calendar. I'm going to say this again. I might have said this before. If you have sent me an email anytime in the last month and you haven't heard back from me, it's because right now I have about 375 emails that I need to get to. And I can't get to them because I have meetings like every hour. And I can't, just stop having meetings. If only it were that simple to stop having meetings. Only stuff would stop
Does it
happening.
make sense to just pick up the phone and give you a call, Libby?
No, please don't do that. Please do not do that. Call Greg, but don't.
There you go, call Greg. That's
so
what he's there for.
That's what he's there for.
Give him
yeah.
all the emails and say,
Yeah.
deal with these.
He's off island today.
Okay.
Anyway, Matticat Water Quality Improvement Study. We're working on that. There's a lot
By
going
the way,
on.
how are the jetties? Are
Oh.
we still on that? Is that all done?
That's all done.
Okay.
Yep, jetties
They
is all
came
done.
and
It's
went.
all set. Speaking of the jetties, another thing we're doing next week at our meeting is I don't know if this is a secret or not. I guess it's not because it's printed on the agenda. We're doing a special recognition for Dave Franzuto, our emergency management coordinator, who is going to be retiring middle of October, and I shouldn't say what we're going to do at the meeting. That's the secret part.
Yeah.
It's just listed on the agenda
Come
as
on
a
down
recognition.
if you want to see it.
It's come on, yeah, you got to come see it if you want to know of what's going to happen.
Boy, everybody,
He's not.
half the town's
He's going to be a
show
little
up.
surprised, I think, at something
Half the
that might
town
happen.
is going to show up in that meeting for Dave.
We'll see. But they can watch it.
I know,
And-
of course, I know.
And there's some stuff that might happen. That
Okay.
he's going to be very surprised about.
Ooh,
He
now
might not
see.
be that surprised, but I think he's going to like it.
Oh, boy, we're not talking about a cake or anything, a big giant cake.
No, you're
that
not allowed to
something
eat
pops
in the
out of.
community room, Gino.
Huh?
You're not allowed to eat in the community room.
Oh, okay.
It's not food related. So what else? That's
About it.
about it. Okay.
You
well,
going to the Scholopers Ball tonight?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
It's very, very crowded, if I recall correctly, when
Yeah.
I went before. Okay, so thanks very much. See you next time.